We have with us now Andy Healey, who just came back from a sabbatical, took some time to think about his practices, wrote an entire novel about something completely different, but we also have other creative tendencies outside of designing products all the time. So he wrote a novel. I'm very curious to find out more about that later. But yeah, before he did that, he worked at Shopify, not Spotify, Shopify. So and if any of you have ever done any online shopping, 9 times out of 10 you will have used the checkout flow that he has created. And it's not easy to create a product that works so well, to create an experience that is being taken up by so many different companies. So how did he do that? How did he manage to align all those different heads and go together in the same direction? Here today to talk about how to align decisions across the whole board, across all your stakeholders. Here today to talk about that is Andy Healey. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Hi, friends. Can I call you friends? My UX amigos and program managers, I include you in that as well. We're inclusive here. So, as you just heard, I'm Andy. I'm a design manager at a software company based in the UK. Before that, I was a UX lead at Shopify, which is a Canadian e-commerce company. When I joined Shopify back in 2018, I moved to Montreal in Canada. This is Canada. When I arrived, I was so excited. I was running around like a little puppy dog. But I soon found out that everyday tasks weren't quite as straightforward as I thought. Should we just put that on play for the next 30 minutes? Simple things like trying to order food. In England, we have this meal called cheesy chips and gravy. When I tried to order it in Montreal, people were rude to me. They'd mutter this French insult at me, poutine. It turns out that cheesy chips and gravy in Canada is called poutine. And get this, it's their national dish. A country with worse food than England. Amazing. So I borrowed some money from a friend to buy some of this so-called poutine. And when I got myself a Canadian bank account, I asked how I could transfer the money back to him. Just Interac it, he said. And I was like, what's an Interac? So he told me how Canadians transfer money to each other. In other countries, we have straightforward systems. You go to your online banking, you enter your friend's details, and it's done. In Canada, they like to do things a little bit differently. So they invented this system called Interac that involves sending emails backwards and forwards to each other and answering secret questions. You know, the kind of thing like, what was your mother's maiden name? What was the name of your first pet? And so my friend obviously didn't know the name of my first pet. It's a system ripe for iteration. Now, cheesy chips, poutine, and Interac. These are the basics of life in Canada. And these words, poutine and Interac, they make sense to Canadians, so they assumed that they would make sense to me. But they didn't, because I had no context. And in UX, we make these kind of assumptions every day. We assume that just because we've got a design system and components, our users are having a great user experience. Metatastic. We assume that the third-party systems we're using are secure and robust. CrowdStrike. Yes, assumptions like these can be very costly and very dangerous and cause us to make really bad product decisions. Yet, in reality, assumptions are an integral part of our decision-making process because we don't have the capacity to validate every single one of the decisions that we make. We make thousands of decisions every day. Think about it, really simple things like when you turn on the tap, you assume that water is going to come out of it. Most of what we do is based on the assumption that we're still going to be alive at the end of the day. And I've not got a watch, but it would be 5:30 if I had one, so yeah, we're looking good. People tell me that I make too many assumptions. I mean, they don't actually tell me that, but I know that's what they're thinking. Now, at an internal Shopify event a few years ago, Cynthia Sauvard-Saucier, Shopify's VP of UX, and Alona Longuina gave a talk on the science behind decision-making. Super interesting stuff about how the brain works to make decisions. And they concluded that any decision, even a bad one, is still way better than no decision at all. And this was a real eye-opener for me, because I'm the kind of person who likes to take my time to make decisions. You know, when I'm choosing what Netflix movie to watch in an evening, by the time I've chosen, it's time to go to bed. But in UX, we sometimes need to make fast decisions. It can be a good thing to be opinionated, and this means making a few assumptions along the way. So how do we avoid the dangerous ones? I started to look into some techniques and methods I could use to help me feel, to let go a little bit, to make me feel more confident in my decision-making. And today, I'm going to tell you those methods so that you can make the right decisions for your users. We'll do this in 3 entertaining, educational, and practical steps. What more could you ask for? Number 1, it's okay to make assumptions. Number 2, make inclusive decisions. And number 3, decision-making frameworks. As tradition dictates, we'll start with number 1. Back when I was at university, not so long ago, one of my majors was philosophy. And like other experiences that I had at university, living away from home for the first time, learning how to go grocery shopping, I found philosophy difficult and pretty confusing. I'd like you to just take a couple of moments to think about what philosophy means to you while I just take a dramatic drink of water. Was that noisy? Probably. So, now maybe you're imagining the greatest minds in human evolution, building on each other's work, striving to reach an ethical and social nirvana. You'd be wrong. Some of you may know of Descartes and his famous cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. If you Google, I think, therefore I am, is wrong, there are over 500 million results. Philosophy is basically these smart people point scoring and trolling each other. Thank you, thank you. Everyone loves to prove the smart person wrong. So in the 1800s, a group of American hipster philosophers decided to try something a little bit different. They said, we can't keep questioning everything forever, like Andy trying to decide what movie to watch on Netflix. Let's make some basic assumptions so that we can move forwards. They took the word pragmatism from Greek, which means to make things done. And that's pretty much the same as the popular tech slogan, get SH1T done. There are people filming up there, so I'm not saying the S word. My mum might see this or something. Oh, sorry. And these pragmatists, they gave themselves some principles to baseline their assumptions. There is no universal truth, since everyone experiences their own worlds and environments in their own way, in their own time, in a variety of situations. If something seems to work satisfactorily, then assume that it does work satisfactorily. And always allow for the possibility that a more effective solution will be found. And if these principles seem a little bit familiar, it's because they directly align with UX tools and frameworks that we have. User personas and journey mapping, data and testing, design crits and UX research. The pragmatists had their principles to support their decision-making. In UX, we have all these tools and more to support ours. If someone says, I believe this design will work because my opinions are great, that's obviously a really bad assumption to make. That's what Lucia talked about this morning, the God complex. But if someone says, I believe these designs will work because it fits in with previous journey mapping, we've tested similar designs, it aligns with our UX research, then that's some strong supporting evidence and a fair assumption to make. So if you're pragmatic and you de-risk your assumptions, then it can be okay to use assumptions to get shit done. So I'm on SH1T. Get SH1T done. Okay, number 2, make inclusive decisions. Are you ready for a context switch? Thank you. You work in UX, of course you are. Back in the UK, we have mountain rescue teams, who are groups of volunteers who help people who are lost or hurt in the mountains. And like all good project teams, at the end of every incident, they do a retro and make it available online. Some of these are funny. Couple stuck in a tent. Like stuck in a tent, genuinely, I don't understand how that happens. There's a big, massive zip at the front. Some of them aren't funny. In 2007, Jennifer and Christopher Parrott drove from Oxford up to the mountains in North Wales. When they got there, they bought themselves a map, a compass, and a guidebook, and set off to hike up a mountain called Triffin. This is Triffin. The guidebook said that their route was easy, but there is no easy way up Triffin. On average, someone dies on Triffin every 18 months. The couple got lost, and Christopher Parrott slipped and fell to his death. Now, the coroner's inquest was unusual because the guidebook they had bought was specifically criticized. The title, Triffin the Easy Way, was extremely misleading. The map was virtually impossible to follow. And I've got a copy of the guidebook here. Is this clear? Can you see this at the back? No? Maybe this will help? No, right? It's just a giant wall of text and a tiny little map. It's clear that the author made a series of bad decisions, or maybe the problem was that he didn't make any decisions at all. He just went with unverified assumptions. The first was just one word, easy. Without that one word, the couple probably wouldn't have even gone up Triffin in the first place. And then he kept piling the assumptions on, one on top of the other, each one making the situation more dangerous. He assumed their experience level. He assumed that they would find and read all of his warnings. And he assumed that the map and description were clear. And what's interesting for us is that all of these assumptions could have been made safer by being intentional about how the content was created. Naming patterns to avoid confusion or ambiguity. User needs analysis to define the problem that needs solving. Information architecture to make sure the content is clear. And user testing to make sure the content is performing as expected. All of these things help us move from assumptions to informed decisions. Like a guidebook writer, your role in UX is to look after your users, to take them on a journey, and to guide them through safely. Now, compare that guide with this online one, which makes safe, inclusive decisions. Its readers might be beginners, so it doesn't say that it's easy. In fact, it specifically says it can be dangerous. It gives a big map, and it gives step-by-step instructions and photos. The writer understands that for each of his users, it's the same route, but a different journey. And this is very important. He keeps the content clear and simple. In England, 7.1 million adults read at or below the age of the average 9-year-old. And England, that's kind of mid-table. France, Spain, the US, they all have even worse statistics. In the US, the average reading age is grade 7, which is 12 to 13 years old. And your users have varying levels of literacy. Like, many of them won't speak English as a first language. Like, how many people here don't speak English as their first language? I'm guessing wow, am I the only one in the room that does speak English as first language? Plus, your users are busy people. They're managing their family life. They've got a million things distracting them from your content. By using plain language, you're making a safe decision that improves accessibility for everyone. Or as Sarah Winters, who literally wrote the book on content design, so beautifully puts it, it's not dumbing down, it's opening up. This is a key foundation for successful, responsible decision-making. Design for everyone, and don't leave anyone behind. OK, here we are at number 3, decision-making frameworks. Let's recap. We've seen that it's inevitable that you're going to make some assumptions when you make product decisions, and that you should always be checking them for unexpected consequences. We've had some tears. We've had some laughter. Well, you'll be pleased to know there will be no more laughter. Where we're going, we don't need laughter, because we're going to learn not 1, not 2, but 3 decision-making frameworks. But before we do, very quick UX story. So a few years ago, I led UX on a multi-year project to build a new checkout platform. And store owners would be able to customize their checkouts by adding a third-party app, or by adding as many third-party apps as they wanted. We did deep research on this. We audited thousands of stores. We spoke to tens of users. And the research came out with some really clear conclusions. The most common customizations were really simple things, like adding a checkbox or adding a banner. And I thought, in my infinite wisdom, like, we don't need to make people install an app for this. We'll just make these simple customizations a feature of the platform. We gave them the name native extensions, which catchy. Now, my team worked on this for 2 months. And after 2 months, we were ready to take it to a product review with the CEO and CTO. And I was really excited. Like, I was running around like that little puppy dog from before. Like, this was my baby. They were going to love this, weren't they? No, they didn't. They canned it. 2 months' work. As one of my team commented, it's not ideal. It really wasn't. But it was a valuable learning moment. See, if I'd taken the time to apply all of these 3 frameworks, maybe even just one of them, instead of plowing ahead, then things might have turned out a little bit differently. Introducing the assumption slam, the decision matrix, will it make the product go faster? Now, I don't take credit for any of these 3 things, but they're all incredibly powerful tools, frameworks, to help you de-risk your assumptions and speed up your decision making. We're going to go through these super fast, like really high level. You can Google, Firefox, DuckDuckGo afterwards, whatever you need to do to find them. And please feel free to take a couple of pictures to remind yourself. Framework number 1 is the assumption slam, which was devised by an old colleague of mine from Shopify, Julie Booth, who's UX research lead. A wise person, not me, thank you for assuming that, a wise person once said, the hardest assumption to challenge is the one you don't even know that you're making. And an assumption slam helps you to challenge and uncover these hidden assumptions. How it works, you get your team together in a room and you brainstorm all the assumptions that you might be making about a project. So for us, one of the assumptions would have been, I believe that our user needs can be solved with native extensions. And then you put all your assumptions on the assumption grid. It's 4 quadrants divided by risk and knowledge. So low risk means nothing which could go wrong. High risk means it could affect your relationships with your customers. Really high risk is it could affect their relationships with their customers. Low risk knowns you can ignore. They're just distractions. High risk knowns, these are actionable. You want to add them to your product planning if they're not there already. Low risk unknowns, they're not critical, but time allowing, try and understand more about them. And high-risk unknowns, these are the spicy ones. These need to be evaluated. Your goal here is to move these to the left, because the more you know about them, the less risky they'll become. If we'd have taken the time to do an assumption slam on native extensions, we'd have soon found out that we were making some foundational assumptions. Most notably, we'd have questioned the assumption that native extensions were aligned with our business strategy. It seemed like they'd be great for our users, but like Vitali said earlier, that's not the only lens we should be looking through. Okay, I recognize that was a bit of a whirlwind tour. That was 20 slides originally, down to about 4. We used to swear by them at Shopify. There is a template for how to run assumption slams available on SpeakerDeck, so please feel free to go and grab that. Framework number 2 is the decision matrix, which I got from a guy called Shane Parrish. It's a straightforward concept. Not all decisions are equal. Some decisions are easy to reverse. Others, once you've started, there's no going back, like flying a rocket to the moon. Some decisions have high consequences. Some don't. And if decisions aren't all equal, then we shouldn't treat them equally. This is the decision matrix, divided into consequential and inconsequential, reversible and irreversible. And this is how Shane proposes that we use it. All inconsequential decisions should be delegated, which that works fine if, like Shane, you're a CEO with like a load of minions on hand to do your bidding, but I'm not, possibly you're not either, so I've tweaked this a little bit to delegate or decide fast. And this gives you time to focus on the more consequential decisions. Reversible and consequential, the top left quadrant, these seem like they're important, but they're not because they're reversible. So you can make fairly quick decision on them. Like Cynthia said, any decision is better than no decision. And then you can gather more evidence as you're going along. You can evaluate them, make sure you're heading in the right direction. And if you find out that you're not, you can always change tack. Consequential and irreversible decisions. These are the ones you need to focus on. If you make the wrong choice here, it's not going to end well. Like, you've got to spend time on them, you've got to understand them, and potentially escalate them to people, to more senior decision makers. Native extensions would have been in this category. And instead of working on them for 2 months, I could have escalated them upwards immediately. Okay, last and not least, number 3, will it make the product go faster? No more grids. My eyes were going square there. A few years ago, I went to an event where the guest speaker was a guy called Ben Hunt Davis, who used to be an Olympic rower. He was in the Olympic Games in 1992 and 1996, and both times the team came last. Yeah, go England. After their latest failure, the team all got together to work on a strategy for the 2000 Olympics. And this strategy ended up centering around one very simple question. Will it make the boat go faster? Ben told us how the team didn't really like each other that much. They were made up of lots of different personalities, but they all really wanted to win the Olympics. So from that point, for the next 4 years, everything any of them did was centered through the lens of will it make the boat go faster? So should we go for an extra hour training on a Saturday morning? Will it make the boat go faster? Yes, let's do it. After training, should we go to the pub and have some beers? Will it make the boat go faster? No, we can't do it. Not long after this, I signed up to run a marathon by accident. Quick question. How do you know if someone has run a marathon? They will tell you, exactly. Thank you. 26.2 long miles, and I hate running, like, it really hurts. I'd had friends who'd run them in good times, so I set myself a goal. Run it in less than 4 hours, or try again and keep trying until I did. And I really didn't want to have to try it again. So while I was training, I thought back to Ben Hunt Davis, and I had an idea. What if I take, will it make the boat go faster, and repurpose it into, will it make the Andy go faster? And this is literally what I did. Like, everything I did was through the lens of, will it make the Andy go faster? Will this delicious salted caramel chocolate milkshake make the Andy go faster? What do you think? No, sadly no. Will getting up at 5:30 a.m. in the morning to go for a 20-kilometer training run before work make the Andy go faster? Yes, boo. So, day of the race. I've not had a chocolate milkshake in months, and I might just be in with a chance of getting the sub 4 hours. This is me at the start of the race, or near the start of the race. It was going okay. This is me at the end of the race. Less okay, it wasn't going very well. Like, I was literally broken. I've been aiming for sub 4 hours, my time, 3 hours, 59 minutes, and 55 seconds. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was that close. 5 seconds out of 14,400. Like, months of preparation came down to 5 seconds. And there's no doubt, without the lens of will it make the Andy go faster, I wouldn't have got there in time. So why am I telling you all of this? Because will it make the thing go faster is a really simple framework you can use for everything you do. So what do you mean by faster, I hear you ask? Thank you, Vitaly, that's an excellent question. By faster, I mean, how will we, as a team, achieve our goals most efficiently? How will we do what's most important, what's most valuable? This is how our C-suite evaluated native extensions. And if I'd have taken the time to do the same thing, I'd have quickly realized that the answer was simple. We don't do this. Like, the outcomes can be achieved other ways. It will slow us down. we can look to try it in future releases. Do not do it. And we'd have got those 2 months back. OK, we've seen that there's right ways and wrong ways to make decisions. Next time you start a project, remember that it is OK to use your UX gut as long as you take the time to check your assumptions and, where you can, turn them into safe, inclusive decisions. And I just want to tell you one last thing before I make way for the fabulous Elise, who is about to give her second talk of the afternoon. Like, how is that even possible? I'm in complete awe of Elise. So in fact, I'm going to put this down because Elise deserves a round of applause for that. So before I left Canada to move back to Europe, I went out for one last dinner. And I decided to order poutine because, as you know, I love poutine. It turns out that it comes in lots of different flavors, and some of them are like seriously spicy. I don't like spicy. This was not a good experience. Like the pragmatist said, there is no universal truth, even with poutine. Thank you very much.